Does the size of a woman's breasts say anything about her vagina? Calm down. Breathe. No need to laugh or be scared. Today we are going to talk about this honestly, truthfully, and above all, with respect. And that's why we're here today. To talk, without taboos, about what really makes sense. Let's understand where this idea comes from, what science says, for real, and why it's so important to stop measuring a woman's value with a ruler of myths. It doesn't matter if you're 15, 30, or 70 years old. This conversation is for all of us, and you can bet if even a child can understand it, the adult world can also learn to look at the female body with more truth and less judgment. So let's talk the origin of belief. You know those ideas that we hear around and that seem true just because a lot of people repeat them? Well, this story that the size of a woman's breasts can tell you what her vagina is like is one of those crazy ideas that have been passed down from generation to generation, even without anyone proving anything. It's like a Chinese whispers that began a long time ago, when almost no one really understood how the human body worked. Back then, in the old days, people didn't have doctors like we have today, nor did they conduct serious studies on the female body. So a lot of things were based on guesses. Imagine it like this. A man would look at a woman and say, her breasts are big. It must be because she is more fertile or hotter in love. And that's it. That comment became a kind of law among friends. Then the neighbor would hear, tell his cousin. The cousin would tell his uncle. And so the idea would spread, as if it were true. And since no one stopped to ask, is this really true? Has anyone really studied this? This belief remained there, like one of those old myths that no one knows where it came from, but everyone has heard of. It's like that story about whoever swallows a watermelon seed, and a watermelon will grow inside their belly. Someone invented this one day, perhaps to joke or scare, and to this day, there are children who believe it, even though it's not true. This whole mess also has a lot to do with how society has always looked at women's bodies, with more curiosity than respect, with more judgment than care. Over the years, many of these ideas have been used to create standards, feed fantasies, or put labels on women, as if their bodies were made to be analyzed and compared. But now, with real information, we can stop and say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. The size of a woman's breasts has nothing to do with the size of her vagina. Every part of the body is unique and works in a special way. You can't tell one thing by looking at another, just like you can't tell what a cake tastes like just by the color of the pan. What does science say? Okay. Now that we understand where this crazy idea came from, here comes the most important question. What does real science say about this? Imagine that science is like that super curious ant who wants to know how everything works. But unlike those who just guess things, science goes there, asks questions, observes, studies, compares, and only then says something. No guessing or gossiping. And do you know what Aunt Science discovered about this story of big breasts and the size of the vagina? Nothing. Absolutely nothing to prove this connection. There is no direct connection between breast size and what a woman's vagina looks like. That would be like saying that someone who wears size 40 shoes has a bigger heart. It doesn't make any sense, right? Let's imagine a quick story. Imagine that a woman's body is like a house. The breasts are the front windows, and the vagina is a room inside. Just because the window is big doesn't tell you how big the room is inside, right? It can be big, small, spacious, or cramped. It depends on a lot of other things. There is no direct connection. Breasts are basically made of fat, glands, and a little bit of muscle. What defines their size is a mix of genetics, that is, what we inherit from our parents, hormones, like estrogen, and body structure. The vagina is an internal organ, elastic and much more discreet. It is also influenced by hormones, yes, but its shape and size are completely independent of the breasts. There are people who think that because a woman has larger breasts, she has more estrogen, the female hormone. And sometimes this does happen, but it is not a rule. And even when it does, this doesn't say anything about the size of the vagina. The human body is much more complicated than that. It doesn't work with a ruler or cartoon logic. It's like trying to guess the flavor of a fruit just by its skin. Sometimes the skin is ugly, but the taste is sweet. Other times the skin is beautiful, but the taste is sour. What matters is inside. Why, and you can't judge from the outside. So, to sum up, science has already looked, studied, researched, and responded calmly. No, the size of a woman's breasts does not indicate what her vagina is like. And do you know what the best part of all this is? It's understanding that every woman is unique, with large, medium, or small breasts, with vaginas of different shapes, sizes, and sensations. And all of this is completely normal, healthy, and beautiful. The psychology of the female body. Have you ever stopped to think about how we feel about our bodies? Sometimes the problem isn't even the body itself, but the way we look at him. And that's where psychology comes in. Imagine that the body is like a mirror, but not just any mirror. It's a magic mirror that doesn't just show what's on the outside. It also reflects what we see inside. Feel inside. Our doubts, fears, joys, traumas, everything. Now think about a girl who grew up hearing comments about her breasts. Maybe her breasts appeared before her friends. Suddenly, she started hearing jokes at school, strange looks on the street, people giving opinions about her body, without her even asking. That leaves anyone confused, right? Let's imagine a little story. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Julia. She was 13 years old, and her breasts grew very quickly. At school, her classmates laughed or made jokes. Even adults sometimes looked at her strangely. She started hiding herself. She wore baggy clothes, shrugged her shoulders, avoided mirrors. What happened? She started to believe that the body was a problem. But Julia's body was never the problem. The problem was how the world reacted to it, and how it made her feel inside. This is the one psychology of the female body, is the study of how we women learn to see our own bodies, often because of what others say or expect of us. And this affects everything. Our self-esteem, the way we walk, dress, talk, love, even the way we feel pleasure. Many women, especially those with large breasts, grow up thinking that only that part of their body is valuable, as if the rest didn't matter. And over time, this can cause them to stop exploring other parts of their body, like the vagina, for example, with affection, respect, and curiosity. It's as if the world has placed a lantern only in one part and left the rest in the dark. Psychology helps turn the lights back on, in all parts of the body and soul. The most beautiful thing, when a woman begins to look at herself with true love, without rushing, without judgment, she discovers that pleasure, touch, affection, and connection with her own body goes far beyond what the eyes can see. An invitation to self-love. You know when you invite someone to a party and say, "Come, it's going to be fun. There's cake, there's music, there's hugs." So, today I want to make you a different invitation, but even more importantly, an invitation to something that starts right there inside you, self-love. It may seem complicated, but it is simple. Self-love is when we treat ourselves with the same affection we would give to someone we love very much. It's looking in the mirror and not looking for flaws, but rather seeing a friend, a partner, someone incredible, even with imperfections. Let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Clara. Since she was young, she had been told that her breasts were too big. When she was at school, she felt embarrassed. So when he grew up, many only seemed to notice that part of his body, as if the rest of him didn't matter. This made Clara turn away from herself. She looked at herself and criticized herself. He felt he had to hide what he was. One day, as an adult, Clara went to a conversation circle among women. There he heard stories similar to hers. Stories of fear, shame, but also of courage, discoveries and inner embraces. For the first time, Clara realized that perhaps the problem was never in her body, but in the way she was taught to look at him. And there began a new journey. She began to see herself in a more gentle way. She began to take care of her body, not to please others, but to feel good. She touched her skin more calmly, took a deep breath, looked in the mirror and said, "It's okay. This is who I am. And I deserve love. My love too." Now, think with me. How many times have you criticized yourself for something about your body? How many times have you stopped yourself from wearing what you wanted, smiling freely or enjoying an intimate moment because you were ashamed of some part of yourself? Because this is the time to change that. Self-love is not about perfection. It's about acceptance. It's about understanding that your body is your home, and that it deserves to be treated with respect, care, and patience. It doesn't matter if your breasts are big, small, saggy, perky, or what your belly, your skin, your vagina is like. Everything about you is worthy of love, and that love starts with yourself. So, here is my invitation. Look at yourself with more affection. Talk to yourself as you would talk to a dear friend. Embrace every little piece of your body, including the ones you've always hidden. Allow yourself to discover pleasure, touch, rest, silence, movement. Because in the end, it's not what others see that matters. It's what you feel when you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and recognize yourself as someone complete, entire, and absolutely lovable. Thank you so much for staying with me this far. If this video touched your heart or brought you a little more clarity, please like, comment, and share with other women who may be going through the same questions. See you in the next episode of the channel where we continue talking with truth, affection, and wisdom about topics that deserve to be talked about without taboos and with a lot of love. Until then, and always remember, you are wonderful just the way you are.